Hello. There we go. Hey everybody, thanks for coming out. Thanks to Tom for asking me to do this introduction for Sid. It's an honor and a pleasure. My name is John Griswold. I've taught creative writing and literature in the Department of English at U of I here for the last dozen years. And Sid was one of my former students. I've worked a lot of other jobs in my so-called career, and teaching is definitely the best of them. One of the very best things that can happen after teaching some 2,000 students in the last decade or more and reading perhaps 50,000 pages of student writing in that time is to be up late grading. The kids are in bed, I'm overtired, prepping for a class the next day, and to read something so startlingly good that I pause in my reading and the next day go in and look up at the student as if seeing them sort of for the first time. This doesn't happen often, but it happens enough to make the job truly rewarding. And Sid's writing is like that. It made me pause in my reading tracks. What I felt after reading some of her work was later confirmed when she won both the undergraduate poetry prize in the department and the undergraduate fiction writing prize, the first time in departmental history, or in memory anyway, that a single student has won both prizes in the same year. She also won what's called the Traveling Quinn Award, which provides travel money and tuition money to go to another writing seminar between semesters somewhere else in the country other than U of I. And of course, the university provides that money but does not help the student get into one of those seminars. Sid not only took our money, but she got herself into the prestigious Juniper Summer Institute at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and has recently returned from that this summer after having studied with the poet Matthew Zapruder. I often tell my students that writing is hard, like anything else you might dedicate your life to. It's stacking marbles hard, and it takes not only drive and hard work and talent and ambition, but in some cases, in a kind of bitter irony, money. Generally poets and writers, especially poets, will not see that money coming back from their work. They do it for the love because they have a calling, and for other reasons they tend to make their money off of other things like teaching and so on. And so this next step that Sid is taking here in applying for some of the best creative writing Master of Fine Arts programs in the country is an important one for her and for her career. We're all very proud of her for that, and I want to thank you on behalf of her and her folks and myself. Thanks for coming out to support that. So without further ado, I give you the pride of the Department of English, the city of Champaign, the apple of her parents' eyes, my former student, now friend, and yours, the terrific Sidney Sheehan.
Hi. Oh, shit, John. Thank you. I think at one point I thought that college was my birthright as a middle-class young white woman. But eventually I realized that it was not that at all, and I had to work very hard to earn it. So it really means a lot to me that all of you came because, as John mentioned, I'm not going to make money. So I'm going to read a couple poems for you right now, and they are new. This is called Remember Israel. Almost always it starts with the sand, maybe just the box at the park, just the thick of it, and I remember desert, desert. I think holy piece of dirt. Oppressive heat, think in scarves and tiled gates crumble, and I wonder how we did it. Carry freedom in a linen pocket amongst the shekels. Learn to be dirty and lovely, lovely and dirty, holy and dirty. And then there is the smell, sweat, and concrete pulp, and the wind bellows, are you at peace? Peace. Almost always, I close my eyes, see Dabka in the streets, dirt under the child's fingernails, reaching forward, brown hands hold a holy coffer. Yes, things always break my heart. The slow spread of wax across the altar, the fruit tossed over the western wall, the wall itself carved with names like teeth marks. I think about the white dress I wore in the dust storm, soldiers kicking up dirt, while I looked into the child's eyes, saying, you are living, and the world is warmer for it. Yet it ends with the rain coming anonymously, so the people gather in the streets to rhapsodize in water, a joy fuller than grief, hands cupped. It was so easy to forget this is a country at war. What I mean is, I can still touch the idea of them. I'm still so close. So I was talking to my dad. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, it's really done. It's done now. And I felt really bad when he wanted me to do this because I was really hoping he was going to forget that he wanted me to do this because he forgets a lot of things. And I told him that I didn't really read poetry to like happy people in beer gardens. It's more like other writers who are sitting alone being miserable. So I was searching for a funny poem, and it was really hard. But as John mentioned, I went to the Juniper Summer Writing Institute, and we were split, me and the other writers, in groups of 12, and each of us got to work with a famous paid author. And I worked with Matthew Zapruder. And in our group, we actually, we got a roster. And there was one person on the roster who didn't show up. His name was Michael Bagwell. And for whatever reason, I was really curious as to why Michael Bagwell did not show up, because it costs over $1,000 to be there, and you don't get your money back. So my brain, doing its crazy writer thing, was constantly thinking about why Michael Bagwell wasn't there, and I created my own Michael Bagwell. So I don't know if this is really funny enough, Dad, but this is a poem for Michael Bagwell. I wanted to call you, baby, say if you don't show up, you can't get your money back. But you must have forgotten to pay the phone bill and still haven't set up your fucking voicemail. Cell phones, just a fancier device to irritate us. It's the people we need to upgrade. Michael, you should know Matthew Zapruder thinks you're saving us from an asteroid, and I like that story. You, a noble Bruce Willis, a space sacrifice because someone has to stay behind, and Aerosmith plays a song with sounds like neon. But I kept thinking of you in a ditch, roadside. I even told you once, when I see a trash bag or a blue tarp along the highway, I say, Jesus Christ, there's a body in there. You chortled, which is an awful word, said, don't be so pessimistic, lover, which made me hate your whole damn face. I wanted to send you an email at canhasirony@gmail.com, reading, if Lisa Olstein calls your name and you don't jump from your seat, some family must have hit you with their Passat, or a regular old B&E went bad just as soon as you opened your mouth, so the perps had to take you out, execution style. But you just keep not being here. Maybe you were finally discovered while tending bar at the Jackhammer, which is good. I'm tired of being the bread earner and paying for your French cigarettes on Amazon. Tired of obeying the alarm clock while you snore. I wouldn't leave you at home with a kid anyway. The bread is mine. Go be a hunger artist, Michael. It's become apparent that I'm mad at you. Whether or not your empty chair is due to disaster or your own undoing, maybe you just pussed out or fuck all and missed the plane. A mistake reserved for you, the whitest guy I know, because people of color never forget their travel accommodations. Like my first true love, the Russian and Israeli Jew, ready to be caught resembling the idea of a terrorist, though he would have sent a carrier pigeon if he had to. I guess I just liked the idea of you. But when I think about your student loan debt for those degrees in English, philosophy, French, minors in film and creative writing, I think enough of the carrying around of things. Please move to New York so you can be even more hopeless. I've decided I'm just going to send a letter. Dear Michael, you should really get that mole checked out. No one really enjoys giving blowjobs. And I'm leaving. I'm already gone. If I see you in a couple years, I will finally be able to do that thing where I ask you how you're doing and I get to be the big one, say, "That's great, I'm so happy for you." The tone of my voice says, "You have wasted your useful hands," and Sidney Bagwell does not ring a love song anyway. But far enough in the future, I'll be less of a lightning bitch and bid you write good poetry. I'll look in my notebook, remember the story, hear the voice of Matthew Zapruder saying, "He's our little lost sheep, stopping the meteors, and he's the invisible cloud that hangs over us. Michael, baby, they need us." Thanks. I'm gonna take a little break.
That was just
So that song, Ingram, did he tell you? Yeah. My dad on videotape once, he put a video camera on the stroller that I was in our house and was blaring that song and pushing me around making strange noises, so hence I am a writer. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple more here. This is a poem called In Absence, and I actually just found out this is going to be in a literary journal called The Sun, but that's okay. I don't get any money. That's my stepdad. He's proud. He's also from Kentucky. Okay. In absence. Listen to this. It was cold that morning, the kind of cold that breeds slow bending limbs, reluctant to leave the comfort of sleep. Eyes on the thermostat. From across the room, I can still see the thick black line he drew with a Sharpie at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Another line I cannot cross. Even in his absence, the absence too of God and wood for the hearth, I will not turn the heat up. So I take his place in the quiet burden of mourning, because women have lost their men before me, and they did not freeze to death. First, I take the axe, the one with the chipped red head and the polished handle that knew him, his whole body living in his hands. Walking out past the fence of rock is a fallen tree, its limbs sprayed like the roots of mouth and strips of bark pulled away like scabs reveal the bone of wood beneath, or maybe pearl. Commit to swing the axe high and hard, this angry blade, feel the pull of muscle determined like milk, for the branches become logs and are split again, smaller still, and the splinters flying are birds. Listen, I was breathing hard from work, walk the logs back and stack them like rows of crooked teeth. I start a fire. Warmth grows now. Lingering in the corners of the house is spirit, as if I just missed him, as if he couldn't have waited for me, as if he's just ahead. It's kind of a bummer, sorry. If any of you read poetry, there's a poet named Richard Sykin. He's also a social worker. And he's a very sad guy, but he writes really beautiful poetry. And I had a professor last fall who encouraged us to write a poem for a particular poet in a style similar to theirs. So I sent this to him, and he actually sent me a letter back that said that it made him sad. So I feel kind of bad because he's such a sad guy. but I think it's kind of happy. So it's called On the Road, and I wrote this in the style of his poem called Road Music, although he's gay and I'm not, so it's a little different. 1. He laughed at me for wanting to bring my books. As I'm sitting in a pile of them, deciding which to take, he was the practical one, packing the hatchet, the peroxide, and sewing kit. I was filling my pockets with photos and boxes with books and cigar tins of trinkets that I believed to have meaning at the time. He packed the tent and quilts and wool socks, folded neatly and tight. He was the expert at leaving, while I was crying, good at crying, and anticipating what I would miss. But he smiles again. Try this. Imagine the house is burning. What do you take? 2. I drive first. I'll drive first, because then he'll roll cigarettes. He won't talk, but will peel his eyes back and build everything we see before us, a wooden fence, an overpass, a gravel road. He will construct a straight line with just his mind, something that leads to another place, another pin on the map, another story that begins with, once we lived in, insert location here. If I drive first, he'll put his hand on mine on the gear shift, pulling us forward, and the stereo plays songs for a blue guitar while I'm thinking, let me do this right for once. 3. I sleep when he drives, if only because I don't know how to tell him that I don't like new places. Who doesn't like new places? I'm no good at unknowing, and starting over makes me tired. I can already feel myself becoming displaced. I would rather stand on the porch and wave to him as he goes. Rather sleep in the middle of the bed and feed all the stray cats, to open my door and let them all in. I'd mark the calendar until he's home, and we would never get sick of each other or be bored with our sex. Perhaps then he would always want me, and no cat in the neighborhood would go hungry. 4. He says we're here. He says we're here, and the hood of the car is smoking, and the mountains are heaps of broken glass, and the snow weeps, and the trees widen with breath before us. He is looking at me, and I'm looking everywhere, forgetting I didn't want to come. I forget we traveled. Never mind the road music. For now, we were always here. Imagine the world is burning. This is the memory I take. Thanks. Like blowing my skirt up. Okay, so this is the last thing I'm going to read for you. This is the fiction piece that I wrote where I won some money from the U of I. Yeah, I know, that should happen more often, right? They need to pay me. And I was really surprised because I don't really write fiction, but it worked out really well. And I also feel obligated to tell you that the last time I read this, it didn't really go like I wanted it to, because my dad came, and they tell you when you're reading to make eye contact, which is a horrible idea. Like, don't do that. So I was reading along, and then I glanced up, and my dad, my like farm boy dad, is bawling. So then I'm up here like, so just don't make eye contact with me if you feel like crying. But I also, you know, I want to thank all of you for coming. It's uncomfortable, I think, for me and maybe for a lot of people to admit when they need help. And so when my dad first proposed this idea, my original thought was like, dude, just write me a check. But he has so many children now that I realize that that's not really going to happen. So it really does mean a lot to me that you came to hang out. And I want to thank Isaac and Harsh and the sound man and Ingram and Murph, who's not here because he sucks, and my dad for making me do this thing. And then also my mom, this is the first time she's come to hear me read, because I was actually afraid that she would make me cry. So I'm really thankful for all of your encouragement. So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to be done. So you can come and talk to me. I'm also sitting at the table right there with two of the lead editors of Storm Cellar, a local lit mag that I